Have you ever thought that just one simple habit before bed, like watching TV, skipping a glass of water, or propping your feet up on the couch, could be the reason you don't wake up the next morning? Sounds dramatic, but for me, a doctor who's treated hundreds of stroke cases in older adults, it's a painful reality I've witnessed time and again. People who live healthy lives, walk every morning, take their medications on time, still collapse because of one tiny thing they never thought could be wrong. Picture this. You're sitting on the sofa, reading a story to your grandchild. Everything feels peaceful. Your voice is calm and steady. Until suddenly, you can't say the next word. Your arm goes limp. Your vision fades. And then you can't even call for help. It's not pain. It's not shortness of breath. It's the terrifying silence of a blood clot shutting down your brain. Why does this happen? Because after age 60, the body no longer reacts as quickly as it used to. Your blood vessels get weaker. Your circulation slows down. And if you're taking blood pressure meds, sleeping pills, or diuretics, your body becomes even more prone to dehydration, which thickens your blood. To make matters worse, nighttime is when your body becomes most vulnerable. Blood pressure drops, hormones fluctuate, and the blood vessels in your brain are at their most fragile. Yet every evening, we unknowingly repeat habits that seem harmless. Sitting still for hours without moving. Skipping water to avoid nighttime trips to the bathroom. Resting your legs in a poor position. Jumping out of bed too quickly the next morning. These little things, when combined, create a dangerous setup, and you're right in the middle of it. But here's the good news. You can change the outcome with just a few simple adjustments each night. And that's exactly what we'll uncover in the next section. 6 common bedtime habits that silently trigger blood clots and strokes while you sleep. After dinner, most of us just want to unwind. A cozy chair, a quiet movie, maybe even a little nap halfway through your favorite show. But these peaceful moments, if they last too long, could quietly mark the beginning of something far more dangerous. I once treated George, a 72-year-old retired truck driver from Indiana. He lived alone, loved baseball, and every night after dinner, he followed the same routine: sink into his favorite recliner, turn on the TV, and stay put. No movement, no leg stretching. Sometimes he'd doze off and not make it to bed until midnight. One morning, George didn't wake up as usual. He had a stroke in the middle of the night caused by a blood clot that had formed in his leg and traveled to his brain while he slept. His right arm was numb. His speech was slurred. From living independently, George suddenly needed full-time care. All because he didn't know that sitting still for too long after dinner had quietly set the stage for a brain attack. Why does this happen? Because prolonged inactivity, especially in older adults, slows blood circulation. Your calf muscles act like a secondary pump for your heart. But when you sit still, that pump stops working. Blood starts pooling in your legs. It thickens. And if it stays there long enough, it can form a clot. Doctors call this venous stasis, and it's one of the leading causes of deep vein thrombosis, DVT. As we age, the risk only increases. Veins stretch, and their valves weaken. Diuretics dehydrate the body, making blood thicker. Conditions like diabetes, high blood pressure, or heart disease slow down circulation even more. The scariest part, you won't feel a thing. No pain, no warning, no sign, until the next morning when you can't lift your arm and realize something's terribly wrong. George once told me, "If I had known that recliner would take away my old life, I'd have stood up every time a commercial came on. And that's the message I want to share with you today. You don't need to jog or go to the gym. Just stand up every 30 minutes, stretch your legs, walk a few steps, pour a glass of water, grab your phone from the other room. Because blood was meant to flow, and your brain the keeper of your memories, emotions, and identity, cannot survive without it. Don't let the silence of a peaceful evening be the last thing you ever hear. It's just water, Margaret said, when I asked why she didn't drink any before bed that night. She was 75, a retired librarian from Ohio. Careful with every meal, always took her meds on time, walked every morning. But that night, she skipped her usual glass of water, afraid of waking up at 2 a.m. to use the bathroom. The next morning, Margaret woke up dragging one leg across the floor. She couldn't form a full sentence. A blood clot had formed overnight, traveled silently through her arteries, and blocked the blood supply to her brain, all because of one forgotten glass of water. Sounds unlikely? Science explains it clearly. While we sleep, our bodies naturally lose water through breathing, sweat, and metabolism. After age 60, our ability to retain water decreases. The amount of fluid in the bloodstream drops, making blood thicker and slower, especially after lying still for hours. You don't feel thick blood, but it creates the perfect conditions for clots to form quietly inside your vessels. Imagine your blood vessels like a water pipe. When water flows fast, debris can't stick. But when water is low and the flow slows down, just one tiny clump can block everything. The danger spikes in the early morning. Cortisol levels surge, blood pressure rises, and any clots formed overnight can suddenly activate like a bullet in the chamber. You might be taking sleeping pills, keeping your body still all night. You might be on diuretics, which cause further dehydration. You might feel perfectly healthy until one morning you can't remember your daughter's name. So how much water should you drink? Just 4 to 6 ounces, about half a glass of plain water before bed. Enough to keep blood thin, vessels open, and your brain nourished all night. You don't need a full bottle. You don't need to feel full. Just one sip at the right time. And that sip could be the difference between an ordinary morning and one that begins in an ambulance. Margaret now keeps a note next to her bed that reads, "Drink water before sleep, my brain needs it." You can do the same. Not because water cures everything, but because it can help prevent the one thing no one wants to face: memory loss, speech loss, or losing the very essence of who you are. So tonight, when you pass by the sink and something inside you says, "Take a sip," listen, because that small whisper might just save your life. When I asked Tom, a 78-year-old veteran, about his evening routine, he smiled and said, "I just put my feet up and watch TV, Doc. Nothing dangerous about that, right?" Actually, there is. Tom lives in Arizona and takes good care of his health. Low-salt diet, takes his medication on time, goes for morning walks around the neighborhood. But every evening, like clockwork, he'd settle into his recliner and prop both legs up on a low stool in front of him, knees bent, calves resting on the cushioned edge. And he'd stay in that position for hours. What he didn't realize was that this relaxing posture was compressing the veins behind his knees, specifically the popliteal veins, where major blood vessels run. One night, while he was sleeping, a blood clot slowly formed right behind his knee. The next morning, as soon as he stood up, The clot travelled through his bloodstream to his brain, blocking a critical artery. Tom survived, but from that day on, he needed a cane to walk. His speech became slow and slurred, and every step he takes now is a reminder of the consequences of what seemed like a harmless habit. Why is it so dangerous? Because when you bend your knees for too long, or rest your legs on a hard surface, the major veins in your thighs and behind your knees get compressed. That stops the blood from flowing back to the heart. It gets trapped, pools in the legs, and if you stay still for hours, that stagnant blood can clot like a river dammed with no outlet. As we age, our vein walls weaken and circulation slows. Even a minor posture mistake can block the flow. If you have heart disease, diabetes, or take sedatives, your risk goes up even more. So how can you elevate your legs safely? Here are 3 simple rules to remember. Keep your legs slightly elevated above heart level. Straighten your legs. Don't keep your knees tightly bent. Place a soft pillow under your calves, not under your knees. And no matter how perfect your posture is, don't stay in one position for more than 30 to 45 minutes. Change it up. Move a little. Keep your blood flowing. Tom once told me, eyes misty, "I wish someone had told me sooner." That comfortable position was quietly stealing a part of my brain. So today, I'm telling you, relaxation isn't wrong, but smart relaxation. That's how you protect the future you still have ahead. When Dorothy, a 76-year-old widow from Michigan, was brought into the hospital that morning, she kept repeating the same sentence. "I just got up a little late. I didn't think it was anything dangerous." Dorothy was strong, independent, still baked cookies for her neighbors every week. But that morning, she had overslept. Panicked about being late for her doctor's appointment, she jumped out of bed and rushed like she was still in her 40s. Just a few steps later, she felt dizzy and collapsed onto the tiled floor. Dorothy had experienced a transient ischemic attack, TIA, also known as a mini-stroke or a stroke warning sign. Thankfully, the episode didn't leave permanent damage, but an MRI later revealed her brain arteries were severely narrowed and that one sudden motion had disrupted blood flow in her brain. Why does this happen? When you're sleeping, your body enters a state of slower circulation. Blood pressure drops, heart rate slows down, more blood pools in the lower part of your body. Even young, healthy people may feel lightheaded when they jump up too fast. But for older adults whose blood vessels have stiffened and whose brains need steady blood flow to stay conscious, this sudden change in posture can cause what's called orthostatic hypotension. In simple terms, your brain doesn't get enough blood for a few moments right after standing. Now imagine if, during the night, you had poor circulation, slightly thickened blood from dehydration, or a tiny clot quietly waiting in your veins. Then, standing up too fast is like pulling the trigger on a loaded gun. Your risk is even higher if you have a history of high blood pressure or atherosclerosis, take sleep meds or nighttime blood pressure meds, or are simply over the age of 65. So what's the solution? You don't need to lie in bed for hours. You just need to give your body one gentle minute to fully wake up. Try this simple morning routine. Open your eyes. Take 3 to 4 deep breaths. Wiggle your fingers and toes. Gently bend and stretch your knees. Sit up. Stay seated for 10 to 15 seconds. Then stand slowly and steadily. After her experience, Dorothy never rushes anymore. She now has a small sign taped to her wall that reads, You've lived for decades. You don't need to jump up like a kid rushing to recess. And I hope you'll remember that tomorrow morning too. Because speed may help us keep up with the world, but slowing down at the right moment helps us hold on to ourselves. Eleanor, a 79-year-old retired nurse from Wisconsin, once taught students how to recognize the signs of a stroke. She was beloved by many, lived independently, spent her mornings gardening, and went to church every Sunday. But one morning, she noticed a slight numbness in her left hand. She thought maybe she'd slept on it funny. No pain, no weakness, just strange. She brushed it off, made her coffee, read the paper like usual. 2 days later, Eleanor had a stroke. This time it wasn't just numbness. She lost her balance. Her speech became slurred. Her memory faded. An MRI later showed that a blood clot had been silently moving. And the warning her left hand had sent days before she had ignored. What Eleanor, and so many others, didn't realize is this. The body always whispers before it screams. And those first 5 to 10 minutes after waking up are the brain's only chance to send you a signal before the damage becomes permanent. So each morning, don't rush to check your phone or silence the alarm. The very first thing you need to check is you. A simple test takes less than a minute, and it might save your life. Raise both arms to shoulder height. Hold them for a few seconds. Is one arm weaker? Does it drop? Smile. Is one side uneven? Speak a full sentence. Is your voice clear? Are you slurring words? These are early signs of a TIA, a transient ischemic attack, often occurring just days before a major stroke. If you notice anything unusual, don't wait. Don't say, "Let's see how it goes." Tell someone. Call your doctor. Because in stroke care, time is life. Since her stroke, Eleanor keeps a sticky note on her bathroom mirror. It says, "Check yourself before your coffee." And she hasn't skipped a single morning since coming home from the hospital, because for her, those 60 seconds aren't just a routine, they're a message from the brain itself. I'm still here. I still need your attention. Frank, a 74-year-old veteran from North Carolina, was a disciplined man. He still kept a daily journal, just like he did during his years in the military. After being diagnosed with atrial fibrillation, a condition that increases stroke risk 5-fold, Frank was prescribed a daily blood thinner. He understood how vital it was. Until one morning, he had a dentist appointment at 9 a.m. In a rush, he told himself, "I'll take it after the appointment." But by the time evening came, he had completely forgotten. That night, while reading the newspaper, Frank began to stumble over his words. They came out slurred and unclear. Seconds later, he collapsed. A blood clot had formed in his heart, triggered by his irregular heartbeat, and just hours after missing his dose, it had traveled to his brain. Frank survived, but the damage was done. He lost part of his vision, and he could no longer write something he had loved for over 40 years. When I saw him during a follow-up visit, Frank looked at me through tears and said, "If I had treated that pill like a parachute instead of just another vitamin, maybe I'd still be whole." Why is one missed dose so serious? Because blood thinners work on a very specific cycle. Missing even a single dose doesn't just mean less medication, it leaves a gap in your body's protection. And that gap often lines up with the most dangerous time of day, early morning, when blood pressure spikes, heart rhythms shift, and the risk of clot formation rises sharply. Many people think, "I can take it later." Coffee or milk won't affect it. I'll crush the pill if I can't swallow it. But here's the truth. Some pills should never be crushed. Doing so can release the medication at the wrong time. Taking them with coffee can reduce their effectiveness, and doubling up on a missed dose can cause internal bleeding. So what can you do? Set an alarm. Use a pill organizer with daily compartments. Ask your pharmacist if your meds ever change, and never adjust your dosage or schedule just because you feel fine. Frank now wears a medical bracelet engraved with 3 words, "Take the pill." And if you're also on a blood thinner, remember, it's not just a pill. It's a silent shield protecting your brain, your voice, and the memories that make you who you are. If you've stayed with me until this point, there's something I want you to know. You are not powerless. You don't have to wait for an emergency room visit to start protecting your brain. You can start right now with the smallest of steps, tonight. Because a stroke doesn't always come from a major event. Not from a car accident, not from bad genes, but from quiet habits that repeat each night, ones you thought were harmless. Sitting still too long after dinner, skipping a glass of water because you don't want to wake up at night, resting your legs the wrong way without even thinking, jumping out of bed too quickly when the alarm rings, ignoring subtle signs from your own body, forgetting a pill that was meant to shield your brain. They're all small things. But for older adults, those small things can be the line between an ordinary morning and a life that changes forever. I've seen patients who used to laugh with their grandkids, write in their journals each night, drive themselves around town, suddenly learning to hold a spoon again, relearning how to say a single word, or silently staring at loved ones they can no longer name. The miracle is that the brain can recover. But the even greater miracle is that you can stop it from happening in the first place. So tonight, before you turn off the lights, take just 1 minute to prepare for a safer tomorrow morning. Take a short walk after dinner. Drink half a glass of water. Rest your legs properly. Get up slowly and steadily. Look in the mirror. Raise your arms, smile, and take your medication on time. You've lived through decades. Don't let a silent blood clot rewrite your ending. You deserve to stay healthy, alert, and whole with the people you love. Now, I want to hear from you. After everything we've shared, what's the one small change you want to make in your evening routine? Leave your answer in the comments, not just for yourself, but to inspire others who might be reading too. And if you found this video helpful, please share it with someone you care about, because sometimes 1 minute of awareness can save an entire lifetime.